This episode of Skirmish Supremacy is brought to you by Reformation Brewery, the official beer of your game night. Bad boy up. Normally I have the power of the red button.
Power of the red button! Which is ironic since we're talking about the Red Book of the Elf King. Was that actually planned? No, folks, it wasn't.
We make this shit up as we go along.
Pretty much. That is why we end up with all the shit that starts off the show. Cutting and fucking.
Oh, God. Let's relive episode 100.
All right. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Skirmish Supremacy Podcast. Actually, this is episode 108. And tonight we have Joe Sala joining us from Lucid.
How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. And we also do have Tim joining us. It's actually the first show that Tim and I have both been on in actually a while.
A month. It has been 1 month since you and I have been broadcasting together on our own damn show.
It has been a crazy month.
Yes, it has.
That's all I know. All right. So, Tim, how's it going?
Good, man. Obviously, you know everything that's been going on with me. For folks out there that are listening, I've gone through a bit of a job transition, not in any way a bad thing. It's just moving in a better direction to allow me more time on game design and doing more working in the actual industry itself. So I got some stuff that's in the pipelines right now working, and it's going to lead to me being able to record Wednesdays on a normal basis like a civilized human being again. Or like a heathen, however we want to do it.
It's one or the other.
Yeah, pick one. It's fine.
All right. So we have made Joe stay up super late, which actually I kind of felt bad. He messaged me earlier in the evening, and he's like, "All right, hey, we're doing this at 8:00 my time, right?" And I went, "No." And I could feel him go, "Okay, sad face."
It's okay. At that point, I just binged Rick and Morty until I had to come on, so we're all good.
Oh man!
So you are primed.
Yeah, I was primed and ready.
So this show really could go downhill. All right.
Yeah, really good. Yeah, I'm going PC mode though now.
All right, so we are we're chatting about the Red Book of the Elf King, which, if you guys have been following, it seems to be one of the two things that I post. It's either War Banners posts or Red Book of the Elf King. That's not because they're paying me. That's just because they keep putting out awesome stuff. So in this case, we're actually getting really close. I think pre-orders go up soon for the book, right?
Yeah, pre-orders go up towards the end of this month. So in that, you'll see a lot of miniatures you haven't seen before, and they'll be comprised into deals whereby they'll be lower than retail price essentially, and there'll be a lot of entry points for everyone who's interested, be it players, collectors, or gamers alike.
Perfect.
Awesome. And on that topic, they have been. When we had you on the show just a couple months ago, I really distinctly remember you saying there was only going to be, a couple Thanes and a couple sets of companions. And, it was like, oh, okay. That was, 10 Thanes ago, 20.
Yeah, a few Thanes ago. Yeah. Yeah,
what I'm gathering is you lied to us, Joe.
I lied to you. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, well, basically, we got caught in the spur of the moment a bit with it. when we're speaking to Rick, we sort of expanded things a bit because we things were going well and we wanted to add more, and we felt there was definitely scope to add more. And it's better because you have more options in the pre-release. You have elves, you got your trolls, you got your Erdane mortals, which are obviously your mankind, your humans. So we sort of expanded it in that direction to make it give our own sort of take on fantasy as well, not just elves, pulling into those directions. So there was more choice and accessibility for players as well. And naturally, we're still, going to follow out with the Fanes, and everything's going to be ready. And we're going to be doing an Elf King miniature as well, which will be nice, and getting that out. And we're going to hopefully put some of the Jim Fitzpatrick figures we're doing in some of the deals as well, maybe the higher end ones. So we've got all this stuff going for it, which is nice. So yeah, to put it short, Nick, yeah, we've added quite a lot.
You have, and actually, talking about the elves, these are definitely not your Tolkien elves, as anyone who's been following the page, I commented on the other day, because you've got elves with mustaches, elves with beards, elves with horns. They're taller than humans. They share a kinship with trolls. I mean, these elves have all sorts of things. They're really weird elves. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I mean, we tried to, I wouldn't even say tried. We distinctly ventured away from generic fantasy and even Tolkien-esque fantasy. We wanted to really root it in myth and that sort of Celtic and more Dark Age European Teutonic tradition, and that's sort of what we pulled out for the Elf King. And we liked it keeping it condensed and neat even in sort of a phase Civil War setting. And so it's heavily rooted in myth in that regard. So we wanted to really make it brutal. And so the elves, they're 7 foot sort of demigod based creatures, and they had, some of them have beards, some of them have horns, so they're quite feral in nature as well.
So how tall? I mean, it's all 28 millimeters scale, but how tall do the elves end up being, on the table?
So I'll get when we're going to revamp the Elf King page, so I'll get some scale shot pictures up against the humans and stuff. But essentially, the humans are, I would say, the humans we were aiming for, the Erdane mortals, are looking about 6 foot in terms of miniature stature, so in terms of a 28 scale. So the elves and trolls are about almost a head taller in relation to scale.
All right.
So I think that's correct me if I'm wrong, I think that's like 32 millimeter iron mammoth scaling, I think is what they call it.
Yeah, so we call it 28 heroic. So naturally it fits in the 28 scale, but the elves and trolls are meant to be 7 foot tall, and the humans are 6 foot. So you've got, the elves and trolls being just a head taller. So like their eye line is about 32, while the humans is, 28.
Now, they wouldn't have happened to have ever stood next to a commonly large brand of science fiction soldiers and, been measured, have they?
No.
No? Oh.
No, what was the reference? Sorry, it went over my head. I can't lie to you, it went over my head.
And Adeptus Astartes.
Oh, okay.
Games Workshop. Because when you said that, a head taller, all I could think of is the regular Space Marines and now the new Primaris Space Marines.
Oh, okay. Has there been a size creep then? Has it dramatically increased?
Well, the Primaris Marines are supposed to be bigger than regular Space Marines. So,
okay.
As you were explaining it and you said the heroic scale and all that, that's just where my head went.
Okay. It's understandable.
But, I look forward to seeing the size of them.
Sure.
Oh, excuse me. So with the rule book approaching, there's a bunch of lore out there that you've been putting out, a lot of sneak peeks, a lot of little comments and details, but there's not a whole lot of the gameplay mechanics out there yet.
Sure. what we've been doing is obviously, given we're running up to sort of a pre-release period, we've just been releasing, some of the miniatures, and what we're doing is just releasing snippets of information to gather, get people to gain some interest in that. Like, what we're going to do though is we're going to revamp the page and we're going to talk more in depth in relation to all the mechanics, what you'll need, and actually go into real specifics as to what the game entails and more narrative. But in the book itself, there'll be a lot of narrative. I think it's going well over 75 pages at the moment. It's looking like, so it's fair. It's got a bit about it, and there'll be a glamour deck of cards as well, which is your spell-based cards, which are optional, but naturally they're nice to have, and they're a reference, like a war machine sort of quick reference to your abilities and stats in game and whatnot. So that's how that's playing out. But yes, to answer your question in the main, we're going to sort of revise the narrative and have sort of a long, more drawn out section with a more in-depth section on the website with the launch of the pre-release stuff as well.
All right. So I have been one of the lucky few to get a sneak peek of the rules.
Yeah, indeed.
And so overall, it's a D10 system, right?
Yes.
I did see that there was a mention of having some D6s. I haven't seen where you use those yet.
Oh, okay. So essentially, what you do is your D6s act as your initiative dice. So when you roll, say me and you have a D6, and we both roll our D6, and you get a 4, I get a 3. Then we roll one neutral dice in the middle. Say that lands on a 3 as well. So I get 6 and you get 7. That means you get 7 chits and I get 6 chits in the bag. So it's not a you go, I go system. So then what that middle dice does is it stops the swing. So therefore, with the 3d6s, you determine how much chits you both get to pull from the bag. And then obviously, if you pull 3 in a row, you go 3 times. If I pull 1, you pull 1. So it's a chit pull system essentially.
Okay, so I did see that, and I wasn't 100% sure how that worked, because I was popping open the different files to read them.
Sorry about that. They weren't clear, and we gave you the working manuscript before it went to print. So it was like
yeah, that's fine. As I said, I didn't sit down and read it all at once. I just kind of opened a file and skimmed different bits and pieces of it, and I saw that there was chits and that you had to determine who got this and who got that, and I was like, okay, somewhere else in here is those. I didn't have time before we came onto the show to hunt that all down.
So that's where the D6s come into play. Anyway, they act as the initial dice you use to determine the chip pulls system.
Okay, awesome. And you play it on a 4x4.
Yeah, recommended size 4x4. Can be smaller, but that's the recommended size.
And then it's going to be a Thane and 6 groups of 3 companions, right?
Yes, 6 units of companions, 1 Thane. That forms a force.
All right. So, talk to us about the most important part, the combat. How does the combat work? Because you have no one that has any ranged weapons. It's spears and swords.
Sure. So essentially how combat plays out is you have in the circle section, you'll find stats for each circle. So naturally, if I'm playing with Salian Trollblood, I'll be using Salian Circle. Salian's companions will have their own innate abilities, which will affect the swing of the game. All elves use rude magic, which is essentially the form of ranged combat. And how that does is it aims to attack or try and pin units for further elf units to advance into them. So naturally, some circles are better at rude magic, as it were. Some are better at being more violent. For example, Vishel's Throne of Towers, they're more aggressive and more violent. So naturally, they would push up on the more spellcasting based units. So the spell casting is essentially synonymous with ranged. The rude magic. All elves have access to rude magic.
All right, so everyone can throw around some level of spells.
Low energy level of spells, which is classed as that, yes.
Nice.
Whereas the Fanes themselves can cast Glamours, which are more the high-level spells, which only the Fanes can master. Those would form the deck of cards, in which you would take 7 into the game with you and cast them. You would be able to cast 1 a turn, or at least attempt to cast 1 a turn.
All right. Sorry, I'm actually trying to get that part open. It was fighting me here.
Which section's that, Nick? I could probably direct you to.
I was opening up the magic and the
the Glamours
and yeah. So because jeez. I thought about opening all this stuff before we started the podcast, but I couldn't be that prepared, folks. I just couldn't be.
I'll get it up as well.
Because there's the drawback, the 10-sided. There it is, stats.
109 is Glamours, and 112 is Summary of Circles. So that the Summary of Circles will give you the stats for the circles, the Fane, and the companions.
Aha.
My internet's running like garbage right now, so for me opening anything is
Yeah, you just got to sit still, Tim. You just got to sit real still. Yeah,
do nothing.
Don't move a muscle, man.
Wait, did I already? I think I already had that one open. All right. So anyway, you have a basic stat line. I don't have the individual people's stats right now or anything like that, but it goes move, attack, range, defense, wounds, courage, and special. And with all of these, you have a target number that you want to get below with the D10.
Yeah, so it's a roll under system. So essentially, the higher the stat, the more chances you have of rolling under. So the better the stat still. Naturally, the special that is likely for the Fane, which you're reading, which is their glamour rating. Also, each companion in each Fane has an ability under the stat line. They'll have their own abilities which they can implement in combat. For example, I think Aurelia's not sure, it's like a fleet fae ability, or that might be Salien's, whereby they can parry one attack or whatnot in a round of attack. So each companions have their own abilities, and then each Fane does. So it's a roll under system with a D10 mechanic. That's essentially how it's playing. The flavor and the what's great about the system and sort of the chip ball system is whereby if you get through your activations and you have enough chits in your bag, you can reactivate a unit, for example. So that might be sort of casting a glamour, a spell with your Fane on the first page, and then sort of moving him out of combat if you have activated all your units. So you can't continually reactivate a unit because it's not you go, I go. Say I get like 3 chits in a row, I have to activate each unit that I haven't activated before. I can reactivate them. So it's sort of, you get that planning ahead strategy as well in the game.
All right. And then, so when you activate a unit, how many actions do you get? 2 actions, correct?
No, you get 1 action. So 1 chit counts as 1 action. So say, you have 5 chits in the bag and I have 8, and let's say I get 2 first. Okay. So I get 1 action. I get to do 1 thing with 1 unit. And once I've placed my chit down on that unit, they've been activated. So my second chit, I have to place on a different unit to activate them. Once every unit's been activated, and if there's still chits left in the bag, the turn isn't resolved until all chits are finished and everyone has used their actions. So naturally then, if there is more, we can go back through the units if they've been activated.
Okay. And then also on rolls, you have the rule of the 1s and the 10s. Which is always succeeds on a 1 and always fails on a 10.
Yes, actually, we readjusted that.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, we readjusted that. That's slightly earlier manuscripts I sent you. Yes, we've readjusted that slightly.
Okay.
Because being a D10, it appears quite a lot. It's 2 out of 10 times of the dice. It's an
Right.
even insta fail or an insta pass. So I think we edited that. Well, Rick edited that. There's quite a lot of swing on a D10, so we needed to keep it quite aligned in that.
I see. So, hold on one second. Tim, can you take over? I'm getting waved at.
How's it going, Tim?
Yeah, it is going just fine. So, with that said, you guys said you adjusted the ones and the tens on the D10 because of the swing.
Sure.
So, what kind of game design tweaks did you make to it in order to make it fall a little bit more in line?
So obviously this is Rick's kettle of fish here, but obviously we talked about it. So what we wanted really was a fundamental system whereby we can add and not so much detract, but add from it. So naturally, once we have the book out and stuff and we go on to do expansions in the future, because we have that sort of universal structure to the units, and the conformity of playing as a certain circle and the shopping list aspect coming from the glamour system and the cards. What we can do is quite easily add, say, more cards, more glamours, more circles, which fit into that sort of structure. And to do that, which is nice, so that there'll be different abilities for the mortals, as it were, different abilities for the trolls. Mortals use iron because they can compete with these sort of, fantastical beings such as trolls and elves. The mortals actually wield iron, which is, standard to you and I essentially. But to elves and the fae, it's poisonous. It's tainted.
Right.
So they are actually the humans, although they're mortals, are sort of coming up against demigods because they can wield iron. The fae, it's poisonous. For them to engage with, so they've got that sort of advantage, and that's what keeps them in there. So there'll be ability centered around that use and whatnot.
Gotcha. So with them, they're going to have a lot more like iron crafting and things like that they'll be able to throw in there. Okay,
sure.
Awesome.
Sure. So the so going back to that point, the fae, as it were, and the elves sort of wield more cosmic based weapons, sort of like star metal weapons, whereas the humans coming from the mortal hands, as it were, will just wield iron, but that's detrimental to the fae, as it were. So yes, you're completely right, Tim. The abilities they have are more sort of more hand to mouth, as it were, just swinging this iron, which is fatal to elves.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So Bill, kind of going back to that D10 system, by making it more standardized, and there is a swing to a D10.
Yeah.
Typically done on a 10 increment percentile base, for you math junkies out there. But so by doing that, you've essentially allowed it to be easier for you to balance new powers, new factions, new unit entries, and things of that nature without having to like completely
overhaul,
redo something. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Makes perfect sense.
So the reason we use the D10 is we used it in the Savage Core game. It's what we like to think is quite elegant, so it's quite nice, and you can center everything around it quite neatly. The difference between say D10 and D20, as you were saying, obviously, when you move a stat up by 1, it's quite a big shift. Like it's quite a dramatic shift. So naturally, a 9 and 8 are like the difference between being fairly hard to hit and like never hitting whatsoever.
Yeah.
Like almost like it's that sort of thing, especially with roll under, because there's no, you're not essentially adding anything to the strike value. So, you're getting flat rolls to hit. So yes, what that does is it allows the stats to be quite neatly aligned. There's still enough space and flavor for the Fane's attributes and the Companions' attributes to show through in their stat line, but we really wanted to center the game around the abilities of said companions and the Fanes and in the glamour selection you take, because there's going to be over 60 glamour cards, right? So naturally it's going to be, and you can only take 7 into the game, and you're going to really be using them as a shopping list for your own Fane, what circle you're playing, if you're humans, chieftain, troll chieftain, whatnot. So you're going to be able to coin your own spell hand, as it were, into the game you're playing, the circle you're playing. So that's sort of where the rather than a point system, that's where the shopping list comes into it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. So that way people can just focus on taking the stuff they want to take and not worry about like, okay, we're doing, a 200 point, I don't know if throw numbers out there,
Sure,
but
yeah,
a 200 point game. And, it's because everybody's kind of has the same standard they build it to.
Yeah.
So, okay, cool. Yeah, I can see how that would definitely work out.
And another point to add, I guess, is, and it also allows people to, paint up a group of companions and, switch up Thanes, try a different circle and try a different hand, rather than, having to, invest in a whole new army, buy a whole new army just to play the game with the army and like try it out. So, you can switch out your Thanes, try, different circles, as it were, because the Thane carries the body of the circle. So, yeah. So that's quite nice. And then you can trial and test the glamours around what you're playing and who you're playing, really.
Nice. I like that. So with all of that in mind, obviously you've got a unique initiative system with the chits and the way that the D6s are rolled, and you have the one that's kind of the shared D6. Combat's all done on a D10. Your glamours are done based upon card effects that also tie to skills and different attributes on the different models. Okay, cool. So with that said, you've pretty much got right now, obviously the different circles, but there's elves, trolls, humans.
Yes.
You are touching heavily on a lot of the Celtic and the Norse as far as, at least as far as the flavor goes. And obviously you're creating your own mythos along with it. What other races are you looking at doing in the future? Are you able to talk about that at all? Or is that something that's kind of NDA?
So what we're looking to do is there's two things we're going to do. We're going to bring out, and I haven't mentioned this before, but it's good to mention it here, which is the Vrichet, which is sort of more of a female spectral Valkyrie type circle. So that's going to have all you get. We're actually bringing out as well with the human tribes, witch crones.
Okay.
So which are more sort of, so it's all rooted in that mythos as well to a point. Obviously, we're trying to put our own spin on it. So that's coming. We're also looking to do what we call the Furore, which is more demonic-based incursions, which are more cosmic in nature, playing with the whole sort of immortal boundaries that the elves sort of traverse paths and cosmic pathways. So we're bringing in those sort of influences as well. So that's sort of the direction we're looking at in terms of expansion from the phase Civil War setting. We've done a lot on it, but that's sort of what I can at least hope to reveal to you the direction we're going for them as well.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to spill all the beans right now.
There's
still a lot of stuff in development.
So yeah, so that's what we're looking at really, and that's what we have in production, working towards as well.
Nice. So there's going to be a lot of variety for people that jump into it. It's not just going to be the few factions here and there, and obviously the circles will change that up as well, and the different glamours that you take with the different units.
Sure. So there'll be. There's a lot there. There's a lot to work with, and there'll be, more unveiled stuff in the pre-order stuff. We're gonna, we'll have a troll chieftain and the human chieftain and stuff like that in there. So that's all coming. What we'd like to do is, present these options and give more essentially. But that comes in time, and that's what we'll definitely be doing and implementing.
Nice. I dig it. So I'm going to ask this because I know people are going to ask this.
Sure.
I know Nick is going to ask it at some point. Are there going to be dwarves?
Okay, so there may be a dwarf.
Okay.
But as everything else has been going, they're not going to be short people. They're actually going to be giants.
Yeah, exactly. We'll flip it. They're going to be 8-foot ogres. No, well, in the narrative... In the narrative and the lore, we've got a Sudase, I believe he's called, which is the dwarf smith, which actually, I believe, fashioned Vishel's gauntlet. So there is one. I don't know if it'll make an appearance, but what we do have is we have weird meetings, they're called, which are scenarios, which use a different chit. So say you and I are playing a game, Tim, and you're playing as Vishal, so you have your red chits. I'm playing as Saley, and I have my green chits. We've rolled, but we've agreed to play the weird meeting, as it were, which is the Elf King. So the Elf King appears on the board. So he'll also have his own chits. So he acts as a bot between us. So if you draw his chits, you play as him for that turn. So it's chaotic in that nature.
Yeah, I was going to say it's very fickle, but I see how it works.
Yeah. So it's because it's like a wraith of this sort of chaotic, unharnessed spirit, as it were. Naturally, if I draw him, it could go either way. So we have weird meetings, which that's just one example of them play on the sort of chip pool mechanics. But those are characters. So there may be a weird meeting where, there is Suddesy the Smith in here. There's the Elf King. And we've got other stuff, we've got the Crone. We're looking at having the another one, which I can't mention at the moment as well. But there's a lot of those things as well. So there'll be characters. If there's not a circle of them, they'll definitely be introduced as characters and meetings, scenario-based stuff.
They'll kind of come out as an independent that throws a wrench into whatever your plans will be based upon how it ends up being. Cool.
Sure. Because from a narrative perspective, we the scenarios and stuff work on a timeline. So at the end, we have the fall of all, which is sort of the imminent fate of, the Civil War. But you play in the timeline various scenarios and weird meetings, which you dip into the points. So the characters all have this sort of historical scenario around them, which makes it more of a narrative thing if I'm playing, and it leaves it elusive as to who wins and it changes the timeline. So it's nice in that respect. There's actually some investment into the narrative when you're playing a scenario, which is nice.
Okay, excellent. I like that a lot. So we kind of touched upon it a little bit. It's a 4x4 board.
Sure.
Small skirmish units. About how much terrain is on the board at any one time? We haven't really discussed that too much.
Yeah. So we've been Rick and I have been specifically loose on terrain because it's described more as a narrative thing in the setting, because you can't always entail for what people want to use, and they'll all use their own stuff. And naturally, they have their own boards, they have their own tables. So we make allowances for the terrain, but it's not specifically stated, you need this in the middle of the board, you need that,
right.
that. More in the scenarios, it's suggested upon to play with the setting and whatnot. But in the main game, it's more a case of here's terrain, this is how it works, this is how it functions. But naturally, on both players, consent of what they want to use, just use what you guys want naturally, Obviously, it's best if it fits in the setting, but you can't accommodate for players, if they want to use what they want to use. So.
Right. There's always those people that play with a shoebox in the table as a blocking piece. But at the same time, you don't want to penalize people for that. But I guess what I'm getting along at is, what's the density of the terrain on the table?
Oh, okay. So what's the density itself? So because it's basically a skirmish-based game, the terrain isn't a massive factor of gameplay. So it's not like, there's a massive forest. There might be a massive impenetrable forest and a marshland, and there might be, a fen which stretches from here to here and whatnot. But after navigation and whatnot, it doesn't become redundant as such, but it's more aesthetic because it's a skirmish-based game. So it's not like you move a whole unit over here into dense terrain and they get this bonus. It would act more as the aesthetic and the overall feel and narrative of the game than anything else.
Right.
So the density wouldn't be dense-based terrain.
Gotcha. So we're talking, for folks listening, just to kind of give an idea off the top of their heads, we're talking like maybe some like one or two, call it 8-inch by 6-inch forest terrain pieces, and like a couple low walls and maybe a broken tower.
Yeah, or like a nice tower in the middle. You're talking hills and stuff, water. I mean, it all plays into what you want to do. It's just I'm very cautious to say, get your massive forest out, and then people go, it's like play with what you want to play with, but naturally it can accommodate all terrain you want to use, essentially.
Gotcha. Cool.
So don't feel, shy of going ham and getting a nice tower, mountains and all stuff, because that's fun. It looks great and it's fun to play with. So, and it works. So by all means, go ham.
Cool. Awesome. Okay. So there is no, I guess, standard, I'm using heavy quotations here.
Yeah.
No, podcast and whatnot, but
sure. No, there's no stand. We standardized terrain rules so you can use what you want, basically, when you play the Elf King.
Excellent. That makes a lot of sense. So as far as that goes, then how many circles are you going to have right off the bat?
So right off the bat, in terms of the elf circles, there's 6 elf circles.
Okay.
So there'll be 6 elf things. We've also included a troll circle and a mortal circle as well.
Cool. And with that, there's not going to be a lot of like cross circles, like the elves and trolls are not going to be in the same circle kind of thing.
Well, we were looking to actually, we're going to do an expansion. We're going to work towards an expansion as well, which plays on that. And there's going to be more in-depth stuff. And it's going to act more as an actual source book with a lot of stuff in. So we like the idea of, Salian actually being able to use the trolls as well, because given Salian troll blood, he sort of has that affinity-based stuff. So that'd be cool. We like the idea of Salian having a troll companion army and an elf companion, that makes up, which fits well in the narrative. But, we're looking towards doing all of those things as well.
Right. Because it from a skirmish standpoint, it kind of makes sense in its own way, where it's like, Salian might, he may not have like a whole troll companion army, but he might be like, I can take this unit of trolls.
Yeah, he might have 2 units of
These
trolls.
These are my cousins, like...
Yeah. No, that's definitely something we're looking to do. And naturally, when we have the options available of more choice with the circles and more units brought out, then we can then start plucking into different stuff and going, well, this would work well with this. And then you've got more, you can apply things in different ways. Whereas at the moment, once we have that core fundamental game and people, are enjoying it and whatnot, and they see the system for what it is, then we can say, well, look, let's do this. Let's get this stuff on. Let's get this stuff.
Awesome. Okay. Makes a lot of sense.
And actually, I'm thinking about Salian having, a group or 2 of trolls, and then there's a couple of these companions that look a little trollish anyways.
Yeah. We've designed naturally we've tried to give choice with the companion. So, you've got some of the helmetless ones, you've got some with horns, you've got some with maybe more winged draconic helm. So naturally, if you're playing a Thane like Mexan or a Loisian who has sort of more a draconic helm, people might want to pick up companions that are more like that. For example, Mexan sort of like a more demonic sorcerer, so you might want to pick up the horned elf. So we've designed them with that in mind. That naturally, you're not going to pick. Likelihood is you might not pick up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You might pick up 2 or 4, one of them, and build your army around your Thane and whatnot. So there's enough choice for you to, pick companions around the Thane you're sort of going for as well.
Nice.
Yeah. Actually, I've spent way too much time, and every time I've actually sat down and started adding the stuff to my cart, Joe pops up and goes, so maybe there'll be more stuff coming, and it's like, okay, I guess I'm going to wait because, and now there's 6 different groups of companions. It's like, okay, so I can just buy one of each of the companions.
I'd wait for the pre-order deals at this point, Nick, because you'll be able to get everything a little bit cheaper as well, and there's like entry points where you can drop into. So that's a tip off for you.
So wait till just a little bit later, folks.
Yeah, just a little bit. I'll be saying that next year, going just a little bit. Yeah, no. At the end of this month, they'll be all there and they'll be nicely packaged and whatnot.
So a chance for everyone to recover from Salute, and then you'll come after them and beat them up for their wallet.
I mean, we come after people every week. We release stuff more or less every week. So
you do. It's been terrible. In a good way. Other than it has been okay, I'm going to, well, you know what? Today's like Sunday. If I just give it like a couple hours, he'll probably post something.
Yeah, that's how we like it.
It definitely, it's definitely been fun watching everything come out. The stories that some of the people have. One of the things that and I forget if it's Vashel or if it's one of the other ones, but talking about the towers, the stone spires.
Oh, okay. So sort of like the dark fingers protruding out the snow, Vashel's towers.
Yeah, I'm like, I want to build a train board that's that.
Yeah, no, definitely. You actually shared, it was you, I believe, Nick. You shared a board on the group, which was really nice. It was more like a fen-based terrain, some great hills on.
Yeah,
that looks awesome.
You can't use that; it's used for another game.
Yeah. That looks awesome.
Yeah. I made that one actually for Tim for his game. Which he demoed at Adepticon. But
it was a great board, Tim. Looks good.
Oh, that Nick made it.
Yeah.
I showed up with one that I had that like folded up into a suitcase because I had to go to the airport, and then he shows up with his. I'm like, yeah, fuck that. Put that one up.
Yeah. That's awesome. That was an awesome board. Yeah, sorry, I didn't know that was yours, Nick. It's fantastic.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I had fun making it. Actually, it turned out a whole lot better than not a whole lot better than I imagined, but it came out. I mean, it met my expectations.
Yeah, which is a hard thing to do because a lot of the time it doesn't.
Yeah, right, and that's where I guess it did exceed. Yeah. But not really. I'm happy with it. There's a few more things I need to do with it. Actually, Warplock Miniatures, they posted this. They called it a Fjord Dragon.
Yeah, those bastards.
Today, and it looks so awesome. I'm like, I need that to add to the board.
Also, actually, has a terrain piece on the board. That'd be awesome.
just add it in there somewhere, and if people fall within a certain range of it. It bites them or something. I don't know. Tim would have to work out those rules.
Already got him. Don't worry about
it. Just get the dragon.
Just get the damn dragon. So it was fun demoing on that board because a lot of people came by. They're like, "Ooh, what is this?" I'm like, "There's Vikings on here too." They're like, "There is? I don't care. What's the board?" I'm like, "Oh, do you want to play the demo?" Not really. I want to look at the board. Awesome. Thank you for coming by.
And then Ash showed up the next day with a nice board too. So.
Yeah. It was great. But yeah, that was actually something I wanted to chat with you about because we've had a lot of people mention Salute. Nick and I, of course, have never been to Salute, but the closest show we have to compare it to is Adepticon, which is 4 days. And I know Salute's only 2, correct?
Yeah. I mean, I'll just come out and say it. I'm not a Salute veteran. So I can't really give you much information. I mean, the Ainsley Castings is actually selling Lucid products at Salute. So for anyone who's listening who's going to Salute, Ainsley Castings will be there with the Lucid product. But yeah, no, comparisons have definitely been made. I know retailers in America who I speak to talk about, the similarities to a point. But I also heard that Adepticon was, massive this year. Like, did really well.
It's blowing up. So one of the things that they're doing that some people like and some people are, I don't want to say they dislike, I think they're just a bit more leery about it, I guess is a better term, is that they are moving. Obviously, wargaming is still what Adepticon is about. That's never going to change. But they are starting to branch out into some board game events, and they also had some RPGs that were being played there. Okay. So I think that is helping their overall attendance rate as a whole. They're starting to get the people that dabble in a little bit of everything.
Yeah. Which is actually really what things are becoming to a point. I mean, you're getting to the point, I suppose, where people still do, but not necessarily classify themselves as, oh, I'm a wargamer, or I play board games, or I play RPGs. It gets to the point where everyone's dabbling in everything, really.
Right.
Well, and there's a lot of crossover. You look at
hybrid systems.
You look at all kinds of games. I mean, skirmish games generally have your war band, or at least somebody in your war band's improving. So going up in level if if that's your mechanics. Some have really heavy narratives that affect how your game plays.
Yeah.
So you have all those RPG elements that have worked their ways in and been there for a long time, but have really cemented themselves in. And then you also have board games, which are miniatures games, just with the movement templates built into the board. There's a lot of that, and actually we were talking about it a little bit earlier. Snowball Warfare. You could easily play that without using the tile system that I have. It wouldn't be hard to convert it. And actually, as soon as I explained the idea to a friend of mine who's a 3D sculptor, he was like, "I'm making the minis." So there hopefully eventually will be minis for it. So yeah, there's all sorts of crossover with that stuff. That
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just finishing up that thought. Just there's all the crossover which make it easy to move back and forth. It's easy to, and I've seen it. People play some war games, and then they sit down to chill out for the evening playing board games.
Yeah.
Or they jump into a RPG.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That, or they also got those very miniatures heavy board games with a lot of theme, like the Beast of Birchwood.
Yes.
That
miniature based board game based RPG thing. Yeah, that's come. It's I'm very much looking forward to doing that, actually, carving out some time and getting that down. But yeah, that's what we're looking at, really. It's going to be an RPG sort of miniature board game crossover. I mean, yeah, like you're saying, Nick, it's got all those elements in. It's just honing in on what actually, is going to be coined for the game itself. And that's going to be more miniatures RPG based with a setting. So you're going to have your map and stuff, and then use the miniatures just as, traversal pieces as you do to play the game. So it's not so much war. It's not really war gamey, that one. I mean, all RPGs have skirmish elements, but
right, and so some of it is your war game, or when you're playing it even with heavy RPG elements, it's you're stripping away the sitting in the tavern for an hour or a whole game session, getting the quest. You're just on the quest.
Yeah, you're just always on the quest. Yeah. I mean, no, yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, that's what we tried to do. I mean, with Elf King, what we tried to do really was instill that and a sense of narrative with the scenarios. So we've played quite heavy on the setting as well, because that's important. I think the setting needs to be enjoyable, engaging, and also fairly insightful for people to actually sit down and want to play in the first place, which is, because there's so many things you could play, and it's really a setting that engages you, that actually makes you sit down to play. Really.
Right. And I think that's a good reason why you're writing your own from the ground up, is because you're not doing a Tolkien clone, I guess, for lack of better terms, because there's so many games out there that do that. And I'm not saying they're bad games for doing it. Obviously, he's an icon for fantasy, but after a while, it's like, okay, you look at a fantasy game, you're like, there's dwarves, there's elves, there's humans. And you're like, you just kind of like, they fit into a trope.
Yeah, it's a genre in itself, and that's what we very much stayed clear of, because it's easy to do. It's easy to just fall into those tropes, but that there's no incentive at that point. I mean, because there's hundreds of other things that do it, so it doesn't really differentiate it from anything else. And that's not to speak ill of anyone who's done it or whatnot. That's just to say that's what we were consciously not looking to do with the Elf King stuff.
Yeah, I'll be an unoriginal. He's just being nice.
Yeah, I'm just being nice.
Suck it. No.
There, we said it for you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So
sarcasm.
my reputation is intact.
All sarcasm. We love all your games. Probably too much in some cases. Oh, go ahead.
No. Go ahead, Nick.
I forgot what I was going to say, so you go.
Oh, great, because I just forgot what I was going to say, because we are off. Just
see, this is what happens when I wake up at 2:30 in the morning. I get chatty and I forget what the hell I'm saying.
That's half our podcasts.
Well, I can't help it.
Oh shit! So, end of the month is when you're talking Red Book of the Elf King. Do we have an official date yet?
So, I mean, I'll throw one at you now, and then we'll work around that.
Perfect.
Okay, let's think of one. You see, we do a lot of the stuff off the cuff anyway, so let me just think. Right, let's look at if now. I'm going to look around the 24th. I'm saying 24th.
24th?
Yeah, I'm saying 24th.
So he's only gonna give people like a week to recover from Salute.
Yeah, I'm calling 24th. I'm calling 24th. I'm going to aim for 24th.
Excellent. Okay, so April 24th.
Yes.
Will be the pre-order date for Red Book of the Elf.
I'll write it down so I don't forget because it's 2 a.m. here.
You write it down because
so
people are going to be listening and they're going to be watching for it now.
Yeah, they will. Right, that's cool. Okay.
So you're going to start pre-orders. When are you shipping the pre-orders?
Okay, so January, February, March, April. At the end of May, we want it to run for about a month and then ship in the first wave at the end of May. So everyone who sort of ordered in that time will go out in the first wave.
All right.
So we're looking at the end of May. We're looking around the 27th. We'll be shipping.
Awesome.
So you have a tight window set by an immediate turnaround time.
Yes.
Excellent. I can dig that. And so all those specials, I'm sure that all the pre-order specials and things like that, you don't have them all written down yet. But
no, I've got it. It's all prepared. It's all
okay.
It's all there. It's all ready to go. It's just initiating. I'm sort of waiting off because we've got we've done you might not have seen it, but have been working with Jim Fitzpatrick to do an official licensed mini, which is really which has come out beautifully, and Jim's been fantastic. So we're looking to put that on pre-order at the same time. Jim's actually going to go and sign some of them. So there's going to be a limited signed amount. So obviously people who get in early then will be more likely to get a signed one. So we want to sort of arrange those windows quite nicely together. So that's sort of what I'm waiting on. That's actually more at the moment what's me thinking in my head, right, I need to get that back by then to do that sort of thing. So that's why I was not. So we're looking at 24th, running it for a month, looking at shipping at the 27th. Anything that will change, I'll let you know, but I would like to stick to my word in that respect, so I'll aim for that.
Sounds like a plan.
And then you're going to, let Steve work on something else for once, right?
Sure. Well, Steve can work on what he wants. I mean, sometimes it's like we agree to do something right, and then like I turn left and there's something else, and the stuff we've agreed is like under the lamp. And I'm like, what happened? And you got to let the muse take him when the muse takes it.
All I can think of is that that little comic strip where it shows the guy and like his kid playing with some X-Wing game, stuff.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's just a small game, there's not much to it. And, the next strip, he's wearing, a Rebel costume and the room is just full of all these different X-Wing toys. And he's like, I don't know what happened. Because you've got, I believe it's 6 games that you're simultaneously or sort of simultaneously working on.
Yeah.
And Elf King has gotten all the love lately.
Yeah.
And there's all these companions, and you just walk into the shop one day and look around, and he's like, I don't know what happened.
Yeah, that's all about it goes.
I just got sculpting.
Yeah.
It wouldn't stop. No, it's great because I mean, as we said, as we mentioned a couple times, there's been something new like every week, and there's more stuff hiding.
Yeah.
But all of it is different from each other, in really good ways.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff coming. A lot of it will be featured in the deals themselves. So we're not really going to reveal everything until then. But it's coming. Everything's going well. So we're looking to have it all smoothly out and ready. So yeah.
Understandable. All right. Well, I think we're coming up to the end of the show, so I want to give you a few minutes to spread the good word.
Sure. Well, yeah, thanks for having me, guys. It's been a pleasure as always. If anyone's interested and has been listening, we're going to be hosting the pre-order deals of the Red Book of the Elf King, written by Rick Priestley. Towards the end of the month, looking at the 24th, it'll run for a 1 month window. If anyone's interested also in ourselves, follow us, Lucid Eye, on Facebook, and you'll be able to see all the updates there, and hop on our website and join the mailing list.
And
That's my
website.
piece. My website, our website even is www.lucidipublications.com.
All right. And then they also have dedicated Facebook groups for all the different games that they post and publish from. So you can join those as well. There's been a lot of people who have already gotten some of the different stuff. I know that I was seeing Orlier painted up and being shown off by I don't remember who right now.
Pyro Painting Studios. It was a guy who does some YouTube videos of painting, but yeah, no, it looks alright. It looked nice.
Yeah, it looked nice. All I could think of is, damn it, bastard, got it before me. All right. So Tim, do you have anything?
No, it's pretty much been covered. Just again, watch for this thing on April 24th and get ready to do some elf on elf stabby. Maybe I should have phrased that differently.
Yeah.
No, you phrased that perfectly.
No, it's perfect. We're leaving it as is. That's not good.
And these aren't your Tolkien elves. These are big burly elves.
Yeah, these are big burly elves with oiled chests.
Yeah.
This just
now maybe that was too far, but as Joe's like, God, why did I agree to come on to the show? All right, folks. Well, that's going to wrap up this episode of Skirmish Supremacy Podcast. I want to say thank you for listening and have a good day.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Skirmish Supremacy. To see more of the antics that Nick and I do, you can check us out on Facebook at Skirmish Supremacy. We also have Twitter, which we can be reached at Skirmish Supreme, because apparently Skirmish Supremacy does not fit in Twitter. And if you want to email us directly, you can reach us at tim@skirmishsupremacy.com or nick@skirmishsupremacy.com. Thanks for listening.